My sister smashed a carrot cake into my face in front of our entire family and called me a pathetic loser. I'd just paid her electric bill the week before. That cake probably cost the same as what I gave her. The frosting was still sliding down my cheek when I realized I wasn't even angry. Just done. Done being the reliable brother. Done being her fallback plan, her free babysitter, her secret bank account. I'd been paying for her rent, groceries, even her daughter's field trips for 5 years. And what did I get in return? A cake to the face and a warning. Don't expect to see Lila again if this is how you're going to be. That wasn't a tantrum. That was a weapon. A final, desperate grab for control. My name is Callan Reese. I'm 33. I work in operations maintenance for a logistics center just outside Cincinnati. It's not glamorous, but it's stable. For half a decade, I've funneled every spare dollar and every ounce of energy into helping my sister Sierra raise her daughter. And I did it with a smile. Until I found out what she was really doing with the money. Until I realized I wasn't supporting a single mom, I was subsidizing a lifestyle. And when I said no, she threw a cake. So, I threw back something a little heavier. It started in 2020, right after Sierra's husband left. She called me at midnight, crying so hard I thought someone had died. In a way, something had. Her marriage, her stability, and soon, my freedom. She moved out, picked up more shifts at the clothing store, and tried to juggle rent, bills, and Lila. I offered help, thinking it'd be temporary. Our parents were living the retired dream, road trips, golf, wine tastings. When I asked if they could pitch in, Mom said, "You're young, Callan. Sierra has a child." So I stepped up. 1 month's rent became groceries, then utilities, daycare, field trips, birthday gifts, even clothes for her job interviews. Sierra always had a way of framing it around Lila. You wouldn't want her to go without, would you? I didn't. But my life shrank. I skipped trips, stopped dating, let the AC in my car die. I worked weekends and overtime to cover her emergencies. I told myself I was doing the right thing, that I was keeping the family from falling apart. But really, I was just scared to say no. Sierra has a temper. Not all the time, but when it comes, it's volcanic. I thought I could manage it. I became the fixer, the buffer, the brother who kept things peaceful. I made jokes when I handed her money. There goes my down payment. Or, guess I'll just win the lottery. Everyone laughed. I laughed too. But each time, I meant it more. I used to have savings, almost $18,000. It disappeared within a year of bailing Sierra out. I wanted to buy a small place, take a couple community college classes, build something for myself. But each plan got swallowed by one of Sierra's needs. There was one moment I'll never forget. I was on shift, welding a panel shut, when Sierra texted, "Hey, any chance you could help with Lila's dentist? It's $240 and due today. Sorry, I hate asking again." I didn't reply right away. I stared at that text for a long time. Then I sent the money, like always. She replied, "You're a lifesaver. I don't know what we'd do without you." And I remember thinking, that's exactly the problem. About 8 months ago, Sierra finally landed a full-time job at an insurance office. Benefits, a decent salary, more than she'd ever made. I exhaled for the first time in years. Maybe now I could step back. Maybe I'd only cover Lila's art class or help with a school fundraiser once in a while. But instead of easing up, Sierra's requests increased. She needed professional clothes for work, then money for networking lunches, then for emergency gas, then because transitioning jobs was harder than expected. Meanwhile, I was still eating dollar store tuna and driving a car that rattled every time I braked. When I hinted that maybe she didn't need new heels for work dinners, she accused me of being controlling. I let it go, but cracks began to show. Lila, who had no filter, started telling me stories. One day after school pickup, she chirped, "Mommy took me to that place where the chef makes fire on the table." A hibachi place, $70 easy. The same week, Sierra claimed they were surviving on ramen and couldn't afford groceries. Another time, while playing with my phone, Lila pointed to a toy and said, "I have that. Mommy got it for me when I got a gold star." I checked later. It cost $40. I'd just sent Sierra $100 for Lila's school supplies. Then I noticed other details. New throw pillows on Sierra's couch, expensive makeup on her counter, a robot vacuum quietly spinning across the floor. I'm not talking luxury, just clearly not from someone barely getting by. Her phone behavior changed too. She used to leave it on the table. Now she carried it everywhere, even to the bathroom. If it dinged, she'd flinch. One evening, I walked in mid-text and she quickly flipped it over like I'd caught her with state secrets. Then came the last-minute babysitting requests. Work dinners, she'd say. Team building. Or, I need a night out for my mental health. I didn't argue. I love Lila, but it was happening 2, sometimes 3 nights a week. One night, I picked Lila up from school, and she casually asked, "Is Jonas coming with us?" "Jonas?" I asked. "You know, Mommy's friend, the one who makes pancakes. He has a fun car." I didn't react, just nodded. But inside, something clicked. That night, I checked Sierra's social media. She never posted pictures with any guy, but I started looking closely. In her group photos, the same man kept appearing in the background, a hand on her waist in one, sitting beside her at a concert in another. Jonas. I was still paying her bills, and there was a man making pancakes in her kitchen. The next time Sierra asked me to babysit for a late work event, I agreed, but I didn't go over as her brother. I went as an investigator. She opened the door dressed like she was headed to a cocktail bar. Tight black dress, glossy curls, perfume that probably cost more than my monthly phone bill. I raised an eyebrow. She shrugged. "Some of us care about appearances, Callan." "Right." Lila, sitting on the floor, looked up and asked, "Is Jonas going to be there?" Sierra froze. Her face went pale for a split second before snapping into a smile. "Brush your teeth, sweetie," she said, pushing her toward the hallway. Then she turned to me. "It's just a coworker thing. Don't start." "I didn't say anything." She yanked on one of her earrings. She always does that when she lies. Has since we were kids. Once she left, I put Lila on the couch with a movie and started looking around. Not rummaging, just noticing. In the hallway closet, a men's leather jacket, size XL. Too big to be her ex-husband's. In the bathroom, men's body wash, a razor, a fancy cologne I recognized from department store counters. In the kitchen, a second coffee mug drying next to hers. Not the chipped ceramic kind either. Double insulated, with the logo of some golf resort. The final confirmation sat in plain sight. An envelope on the table, addressed to Jonas Madsen. Same apartment number, same zip code. When Lila came back from brushing her teeth, I asked as casually as I could, "So, is Jonas one of Mommy's friends from work?" She gave me that look only a 7-year-old can give, equal parts innocent and exasperated. "No, silly. Jonas is Mommy's boyfriend. He sleeps over lots of times. He even bought me the robot that vacuums." I felt my stomach drop. He'd taken them to the zoo, the hibachi restaurant, even a weekend trip to a water park. The exact weekend Sierra told me her hours had been cut and she needed help with rent. I tucked Lila in that night with a smile, read her a story, gave her a hug, told her I'd see her soon. But when she was asleep, I quietly took out my phone and photographed everything. The mail, the jacket, the expensive toiletries, the receipt sticking out of a shopping bag for a $200 pair of heels. When Sierra came home just after midnight, she looked surprised to see me still awake. "You're still here?" she said. "We had a good talk," I replied. Lila told me all about Jonas. Her face cracked. She started backpedaling. "It's new. You're overreacting. It's none of your business." But it was. "When I've been paying your rent for 5 years, everything is my business." Then she said it. "You're just jealous I have someone." That one hit harder than I expected, maybe because it wasn't entirely wrong, but I didn't let her see it. Instead, I said, "Well, if Jonas is so amazing, maybe he can start covering the utilities. Because I'm done." She started crying. But I didn't reach for my wallet. I reached for the door. 3 days later, she showed up at my door. I'd just finished laundry when the doorbell rang. There she was. Makeup light, hair pulled back, holding a white cake box from that fancy bakery across town. "I just want to talk," she said. Against my better judgment, I let her in. She set the box on my kitchen table and launched into a speech. Rehearsed, polished. "I'm sorry I didn't tell you about Jonas. I understand why you're upset, but maybe we can find a middle ground. Just help with rent until things settle. I'm not asking for everything, just a little support, Callan." I stared at her. "You still don't get it." She tilted her head, like I was the irrational one. "This isn't about Jonas." "No," I said quietly. "It's about the lies. The way you let me drown while you went out to dinner. It's about the 5 years I lived like I was broke. Because I was. So you could live like you weren't." She crossed her arms. "You're exaggerating." I laughed. Not bitter. Hollow. "I've given you over $35,000. I have the receipts. I've tracked every single cent." She blinked. For a moment, I could tell. She'd never done the math. I stood up. "You've got a job. You've got Jonas. Figure it out." She gestured toward the cake box. "I brought your favorite, carrot cake." I opened the lid. It was carrot cake, all right, but the writing across the top said, in delicate frosting, "Happy 6 months, Jay." The last word had smudged. I looked up at her. This was for Jonas. Her cheeks flushed. "Well, yes, but I thought we could share it. I'm trying to include you in my life." "Include me?" I said slowly. "You used my money to buy a cake for your anniversary with a man I didn't even know existed, and when he canceled, you figured you'd use it to buy my forgiveness?" "Jonas didn't cancel," she snapped. "He's meeting me later." I stared at her. "So you wanted to smooth things over with me, just enough to keep the money coming. Then take your boyfriend to dinner with a cake paid for by my electric bill." "It's not like that." "It's exactly like that." Her voice rose. "God, you're impossible. This is why I didn't tell you. You always make everything about control." I stepped back. "I'm not trying to control you. I'm just done being used." Her eyes went glassy, then dark. "You're a bitter, lonely loser. At least Jonas loves me. No one even wants you." That one stung, but I didn't flinch. "If Jonas loves you so much," I said calmly, "maybe he can be your new ATM. But I'd check his credit score first, just in case." She grabbed the cake box and, before I could react, slammed it into my face. The frosting hit first, then the weight of the cake plate cracked into my lip. I tasted blood. Cream cheese icing slid down my chin. "Go to hell!" she screamed. "At least Jonas isn't a pathetic failure stuck in a dead-end job." She turned to leave, then paused in the doorway. "Don't expect to see Lila again if this is how you're going to be." That line landed harder than the cake, but I kept my voice steady. "Get out, and don't come back until you're ready to act like an adult." She slammed the door. I stood in my kitchen, cake dripping onto the floor, lip bleeding, chest hollow. That night, I made 2 decisions. First, I was done playing the villain in her rewritten version of reality. Second, if she wanted to use force, emotional or otherwise, then I'd respond in kind. Not with violence, but with paperwork. I hadn't even finished wiping cake off my face when the messages started flooding in. 6 missed calls from Mom, 3 from Dad, 1 from a number I didn't recognize. Probably Sierra using a friend's phone. I ignored them all. Instead, I took a picture of my frosting-covered, bleeding face and dropped it in the family group chat with 1 sentence. "This is what your daughter did when I told her I wouldn't pay her bills anymore." Silence, then Dad replied. "You know how emotional she gets. You shouldn't have pushed her." No concern, no outrage, just blame. I tried again, sent screenshots, texts, transfers, all showing 5 years of support. Even included her "I'll pay you back" promises. Mom's response? "That's between her and Jonas. Don't get involved." I replied, "It already involved me when I funded their lifestyle." They left me on read. Only Uncle Wes called. "You okay?" he asked. "Getting there," I said. "You pressing charges?" I wasn't, not for Lila's sake. But Wes had another idea. He introduced me to Marcus, a debt recovery agent. Clean, professional, by the book. I handed over a folder, payment records, text promises, even itemized transfers. He didn't flinch. She asked for money to survive, he said, flipping pages, and used it for shoes and weekend trips? She knew what she was doing. And she acknowledged these were loans? I pointed at the highlights. Marcus closed the folder. Then it's actionable. 2 days later, Sierra got the notice. Debt owed. $39,423.27. Pay immediately or face credit damage and legal action. It took her less than 20 minutes to call. You sent a collector after me? You threw cake at me. Paperwork felt more civilized. She screamed, cried, hung up. But this time, I didn't flinch. The fallout came fast. My parents called the next morning. Not to ask how I was doing, not even to mention the bruised face in the photo. Just straight to business. Have you completely lost your mind? Dad barked. I calmly stirred cream into my coffee. Hi, Dad. I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. You hired a collection agency on your own sister. She's allergic to responsibility, I said. So I introduced her to professional responsibility. You're tearing this family apart, Mom added. No, I said quietly. I just stopped being the glue you all took for granted. They went through every tactic. Guilt, shame, appeals to family loyalty. I let them talk. Then I hung up. It was the first time in years I didn't feel bad for standing my ground. A few days later, Marcus called. She came in, he said, with her boyfriend. I pictured Jonas, clean-cut, confident, probably used to charming his way through problems. Let me guess, I said. Tears, outrage, maybe a threat to sue? All of the above, Marcus chuckled. But here's the twist. Jonas pulled me aside, asked how much would make this go away immediately. I froze. Seriously? Yep. He was very interested in protecting her credit score, almost like he was planning something that required good credit. Marriage? Mortgage? A lease? Whatever it was, he didn't want debt attached to Sierra. What did you tell him? I said a good faith lump sum would demonstrate seriousness. He wrote a check on the spot, $5,000. I laughed, actually laughed out loud. And the rest? I asked. They signed a payment agreement, $500 a month until the debt's cleared. After our fees, you'll see about $350 monthly. First payment hits next week. I thanked him and hung up. Then I stood there, smiling like a man who'd just won a war, without firing a shot. That weekend, I fixed my car's AC, after 2 summers of sweating through stop-and-go traffic. The next month, I paid off one of my credit cards. The month after that, I opened a savings account. Sierra's social media went dead quiet. No posts about toxic family. No vague quotes about being betrayed by those you trusted. Just silence. I wondered if Jonas ever found out the full story. If he knew the candlelit dinners and weekends away had been paid for by her brother's overtime shifts and empty fridge. If he realized the woman he thought he was rescuing had spent years playing the victim while living off someone else's sacrifice. It didn't matter. She wasn't my problem anymore. And for the first time in 5 years, I could finally breathe. The first payment landed in my account on a quiet Tuesday. $350, not much, but more than I'd ever expected to see back. I used it to fix my car's AC, paid off a credit card the next month, started a savings account after that. They were small steps, but they were mine. Sierra's social media went dark. No more vague quotes about betrayal, no more toxic family rants, just silence. I didn't reach out. I didn't care. My parents stayed distant, still disappointed in me, somehow. I let them be. I had no interest in earning their approval anymore. Uncle Wes invited me fishing. While the boat rocked in still water, he handed me a mug of burnt gas station coffee and said, "You finally did what nobody else had the guts to do." I didn't answer. I didn't need to. That weekend, I went grocery shopping and passed the bargain shelf without pausing. Picked up a bag of $13 dark roast, the kind I always used to put back. I brewed it the next morning, sat by the window as the sun came up, and took a slow sip. It didn't taste like victory. It tasted like something better. It tasted like freedom.